Hello everyone and welcome to the LSI F1.5 EU Championship. We're today for the penultimate round of the season. Round 13 of 14 brings you Belgium, the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. And we have this man leading the championship with 2 races to go. Now, I'm just going to double check something as we give you your screens now, as you can watch Jericho Willis go for another lap. All that Jericho Willis needs to do today is score 4 points and they are the champion. If you finish in 6th, you score 8 points. So all that Jericho needs to do is finish this race. And actually, if the higher tier driver of Samaxon competing as well, you can only finish 10th place at the moment as long as no one DNFs. So Jericho Willis could have this one in the bag as long as they keep it out of the barrier and they stay connected to the session. Will they have the connection issues that they had last week in qualifying for Mexico when they go to the pit lane? Well, we've got to hope that they don't. And if they do, that they can rejoin immediately. Verf, they have to win this race. They have no other option. They have to win this race. If they do not win this race, it doesn't go to the final Grand Prix. There is no chance at all. So Verf having some terrible luck in Mexico with that connection issue really made it difficult for them, of course. But we'll see how it goes for the rivals here. A historic circuit to bring us some more racing. We had an amazing time yesterday out on track. And we're going to have some good old battling between the 2 rivals once again. Terrence isn't too far away from Verf, so if Verf has an issue in the championship, then it could mix up. That's Jericho Willis going for what could be their final, probably penultimate run of the session. Incredibly close to Verf right there, but just not quite enough. Will they be able to get a pole position off of Verf this season? So far, the titan of a qualifier just seems to have it nailed down. The only pole that they have missed out so far this season was the Hungarian Grand Prix, and that went to Frantic, who was racing as a reserve driver. Wasn't a permanent driver, but a reserve driver, and that's who got the pole position. A brilliant effort from Frantic it was there. They've just missed out from the 100% pole position rate. Other than that, they've got everything nailed down. Now, if this goes down to the final race, was it to go to equal points in the championship, currently it would go to Jericho Willis. However, if there was some form of DNF from Jericho Willis on this race and the next race on non-point scoring positions, and it was a double victory for Verf, then it would go to Verf, of course. And I think they would take it by more than equal points. But if it was equal points at the very end, then it would see Verf take the victory, because they would have equal victories for Jericho Willis, and Verf has more P2 positions than Jericho Willis does. That's a very unlikely circumstance that we'll find ourselves in. So it's not going to go that way. I hate to break it to you, for those that want to see it go really down to the wire, but we'll see. Now, we welcome the 2 Williams drivers to the grid. Dres goes across the line, and that is going to be the final lap started. The driver from the US looking to give it a good shot here on the Steam platform, their teammate on Xbox. The Ginger Hornet is from the UK, racing for their home team and giving it their best shot. These 2 finding the later stages of the F1.5 Championship to get themselves some experience on track before they go for their full season next season. It's great to have them here, and I hope that they can join us for many more races as well. Raz really giving it a good shot through the Lecombe chicane, through Malmedy, cutting it right on the inside there, down the hairpin they will go. Trying to not lock that front left tyre in the end, and they get a good job done of it, but it's Verth, the qualifying king, who then goes into Lecombe as well. Let's see how it's done as they push the limits. They really fight the wheel to use everything they can of the grip that's available to them with that soft front end down into the hairpin. Once again, you can see the flick of the steering wheel to really use the mechanics of the game to give you that advantage. You go through no-name, get as close as you can to the outside, very tiny there from the Hungarian driver. Pouon, a little bit of a lift or just downshift to 7th, and you can keep it flat if you've got the right setup, but with low downforce setups it's really tough to get done. And through the Fania chicane, piff paff if you like, a little bit of wrestling going on where the car gets really light. And now the final two before you get to Blanchimont. Very messy there from Verth, despite going purple a 10th.5 up. Jericho Willis will not go out again. They will not be able to contest their rival. Despite that mistake, Verth may be safe. Terence, currently P3, will cross the line as they exit the bus stop chicane for the final time. Terence crosses the line and it is going to be a P3 for them. It's Verth who has more problems and completely messes up their final lap. And Jericho Willis, who went for the earlier run, did not get a late run and missed out on an opportunity right there to go again. Verth, in an interesting style, takes pole position for the Belgian Grand Prix in a very, very strange way. Absolutely incredible though. The record stands more or less. Other than that one race this season, they've taken every single pole position that you can get. Absolutely incredible scenes here from Verth. They start on the front row with Jericho Willis to join them, and the battle will continue. It's Verth on pole position, it's Jericho Willis in P2, and it's Terence in P3. The top three in the championship will go at it once again as we head down the Kemmel Straight into the Lecombe chicane. It's going to be an awesome one. We'll see you in a few minutes. Ready, hold, go! Who's going to getting into turn one. Verf on the inside line. Will Jericho Willis get there on the traction? It looks like they are ahead. They'll try and zoom through, and Verf is not going to worry about that one at all. They want their rival to be ahead of them as they get the slipstream down into the Lecombe chicane. They back off a little bit to allow the McLaren to go in front. Jericho Willis leads the way as they enter turn 5 down the Kemmel Straight. Before turn 5, Verf might even try and get there back in front again. They are in the tow. They're close behind. They're going to look to the inside line, but they will back off last minute. Terence was looking very spicy there to have a go, but they have to back off in the end as well. So Maxon up to P4 immediately. It's the Ginger Hornet in P5, and it is Drez who's down to P6 behind their teammate so far. The Ginger Hornet giving it a very good shot, not actually realising that it's manual gears, very used to driving with auto gears, so they're going to have a few struggles, I'm sure, but they're definitely giving it a good shot, and they're right in the back of the pack, even in a few corners into this race. Jericho Willis leads the way, secures the lead, continues. It is going to be Verf with DRS, and a massive tow though. That is something that will be very difficult for Jericho to manage, because Terence also will be flying through as well, maybe even Smaxon. Now the question is, with the sky being the colour as it is right now, pretty grey, are we going to see some wet conditions be kicked in? We don't know, and we're just going to have to wait to find out about that one, of course. Verf sits behind Jericho Willis as they lead onto lap 2. Jericho Willis will lead the Belgian Grand Prix, but DRS is immediately available. A brilliant rule that they've enabled into this year, or this game of F1, and it's going to be Verf who's going to have a clear shot at making that overtake here on their rival. Let's have a look at those tyres. It's raining. It's raining already. It is raining already on the screen, and that is Jericho Willis, who's ahead for now, but how long will they be able to stay out on track? Is that just that moment and it was a glitch on the screen or something? Or is that actually rain? I would suggest that maybe it's a glitch on the screen, because surely, it's not going to be raining looking at the tyre situation. If it was going to be raining this soon in, we would have expected a few cars to, not a few, every car to be on the soft tyre. But instead, we've got a mix of hards and mediums and softs. We've got everything. Terence on the softs. We've got Sir Max on, Jericho and Drez all on the mediums. On the hard tyre, Verf is the only one who's doing a really good job, doing what Sir Maxon couldn't do yesterday by staying with the cars that they were kind of starting with. They've taken that pole position. They've only lost one position instead of 4 or 5, and they're in really, really good contention right now, and they're only going to get stronger later on as time goes on. But that is surely rain now, unless there is just a line in the middle of my screen, but I'm pretty sure we're seeing some drops. Nothing that's getting really serious on the cars, as you can see, so they are going to be just backing up. You can see Verf having to go defensive in order to prevent Terence from getting any ideas, but they've made a mistake on the exit of the bus stop chicane, and it's going to be Terence who goes into P2 and takes the spot nice and easily. It's Verf who makes contact with the back of the driver from Hong Kong. That was very close indeed, wasn't it? As Verf actually made contact in the race yesterday as a reserve driver with the back of Devon Young, and a little bit of some X on there as well, so they've got to try and make sure that they don't do that again. And so far so good. DRS is still available. Terence, are they going to try and go for the lead of the Grand Prix? Well, if it is going to be raining, I'd suggest that they go for it immediately. We're going to get the two Williams go side by side into the Lecombe chicane, as it's going to be Drez who goes for the move. They get the move done. They make it stick. The greasy conditions are only going to get more tricky. It should get slightly better for the Ginger Hornet, who would have an advantage on the tyres that operate in colder conditions, but it's still going to be tricky regardless of what tyre you're on if you're in wet conditions, let alone not being on an intermediate or wet tyre. For now, it's dry and it will stay as it is, and it will stay good. Lots of rotation coming from that Williams behind, and very, very close to the back, really gaining a massive amount as they're going to go right round the outside and swoop through on their teammate. A brilliant overtake right there, but really struggling to keep it in a straight line. with the traction at the moment, that greasy circuit is going to be super difficult. And it's only going to get harder, especially when we go into corners such as the bus stop chicane. Everything is going to get super tricky. You've got to brake in a straight line and not move the wheel. Otherwise, you will just completely straight line in front. We've got Terrence, who is very, very close to the back of Jericho Willis. On the exit, they lose a bit of time. They can see the drops falling, I'm sure. But nothing to worry about once again. And it seems that it's just going to be pretty straightforward. Now, are we going to get these really light drops of rain all the way to the kind of mid part of the Grand Prix? And that's why Verf's gone onto that hard tyre, because he thinks it's not going to be wet until later. I don't know. I think Terrence thought it was going to be a wet quite early on, so that's why they went for the soft tyre. So Maxon thought in the middle ground. That's the champion of the F1 tier who's tried to make that call. And I'm sure you can give him a good amount of trust in this game to make the right call with strategy. The two teammates once again continue to race closely with one another, following now, not making an overtake as they were last lap around, staying within each other's range. Currently looking at the time penalty situation, 3 seconds for each of these cars, so they will be racing each other. Oh, that's a big moment right there for the Ginger Hornet, who goes off again, as there's a little bit of contact there between the two teammates. Nothing too severe to worry about. And they continue on their way, and it's now Drez who's P5 and ahead. Oh, and he's round. He's round. Oh, what a shame there for Drez, who goes around. I don't know. Do they have damage? They do have end plate damage on their right side, unfortunately. So they'll eventually have to get that one fixed. Will they go into the pit lane immediately? I do not know. But we'll go with the leaders, as we've got Terrence, who's coming out of the bus stop chicane. Also very, very tricky traction conditions for them, as we saw Verf encounter that and lose the position to the Haas car. Samaxon so close to the back of Verf, but not willing to make an overtake on the higher current tier drivers, as Samaxon is a higher tier driver scoring different point system. It's Verf who has a big moment there as they get a massive amount of a tow on Terrence, and they go for the move already. So Maxon follows on. Terrence just has to back down. Jericho Willis gets 6/10, and in the meantime, all of that, Ginger Hornet has retired, and it is Drez in P5. Promoted, but in the pits. On the hard tyre there for Drez. Not the lap that they wanted to make a pit stop, but they're looking to just try and get as far as they can into this Grand Prix to get some good experience. 6 seconds back at the moment after the start. And the top four in the train are going very quickly. Terrence, who's only going to get slower on this soft tyre, has really got to think about what's going to happen here. And it's not really getting that wet, so they're going to try and stay out for as long as they can, I am sure. They don't want to go into the pit lane at all, because then it means that they kind of accept defeat on this tyre. But they're only losing more pace in a straight line. 1.1 seconds, a little bit higher on the downforce maybe there for Terrence. And it's not seeming to pay off. We go into the corners, as they will be bunched up behind Jericho Willis. And you don't see a major gain there for Terrence, so 1.3 seconds, it only gets bigger. And now they lose that peak performance. That soft tyre is done. The tyres ahead of them, despite in the conditions that they're not designed to be in, are only going to be quicker at this stage. And with the train that's also following up ahead, we see Samaxon watching as he sees the two rivals in the championship incredibly close together. He fought these two for the title and 4 victories last season in F1.5. Verf not becoming a regular driver until late on. Still fighting 4 victories. And that was actually a battle that they had for their first victory in LSI, which was the Singapore Grand Prix for Samaxon. Verve later on had an opportunity to get to that top step. And they've been trading with Jericho Willis ever since. Jericho makes a mistake in Piff Paff and really has to try and recoup. Verve is incredibly close and now confident. With the tyre advantage right now, well, tyre strategy advantage I should say, they should be at a pretty big disadvantage at the moment. But we're still not seeing any pit stops. And I don't think we're going to be expecting any rain. It's just a really greasy condition. It's classic Belgium. They say that it's got its own climate in real life. And I'll tell you what, in the game as well, on so many occasions, you see this weather condition. Light rain, no need for pit stops, just slick driving on the on the wet conditions. It's so difficult. But it's really quite fun if you can get it nailed down. And now, with a bit of fun, with a bit of DRS, will Verve take the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix? Sir Maxon was hoping that Verve would do it so they can follow along and maybe make some progress. Sir Maxon lets it happen, and Verve does go into the lead of the Grand Prix and takes P1 here. And now Sir Maxon's best interest in this race is to try and go for a bit of a strategy call, go for an undercut, and then end up ahead of both Verve and Jericho Willis so that they can try and win the Grand Prix without having an effect on the current tier drivers. That's not quite so simple as we saw in Mexico. They didn't have the chance to do that, and they had to kind of play ball around of what happened. But now they have another opportunity. They're putting themselves in a prime position to do something with the strategy, but they've got to make sure that they do something different. Of course, if they do pit, it does mean that Jericho and Verve might try and change their strategy because of that, because they think that Sir Maxon is trying to go for the ultimate optimal strategy when they're probably not going for the optimal strategy and they're just trying to get ahead instead. It could change things and it could make things quite difficult. It could make things quite difficult for Jericho Willis if they go to the pit lane a little bit too early. So Jericho's really got to race themselves, and they've got to make sure that they stay as close as they can to the back of Verve, who's now got clean air for the first time in a long time, and actually 7 tenths ahead is very strong. Terence into the pit lane. You wouldn't really say early on because it's a longer circuit, so the tyres wear more, and they've had to go in with this soft tyre just running out now of grip. And they're going to put on a fresh set of hard tyres and go to the end of this Grand Prix. That'll be a severe undercut, but we could see a switch as that's going to be Sir Maxon going for the move on Jericho Willis as they now try and make some more progress. Jericho didn't seem to really want to fight that too much. They don't need to fight it, and it actually only helps them because that slingshot that Sir Maxon will have got to catch up to Verve would have actually helped them. It's just that they've got to really make sure that they do hold on, because if Sir Maxon all of a sudden does make a pit stop, then there's all of a sudden a car with gap in between, and now you've got to make that progress once again. This switch of position between Sir Maxon and Jericho Willis could give Jericho an advantage onto the start-finish straight if Sir Maxon was to go into the pit lane. That start-finish straight advantage would all of a sudden turn into not an advantage because you wouldn't get a DRS zone activation as you go down the Kemmel Straight. So Jericho Willis, although allowing Sir Maxon to go through to try and give themselves a bit of breathing room, is actually probably in one of the most crucial parts of their race possible. Sir Maxon, will they make the stop? They will not. Oh, but it's going to be Jericho Willis into the pit lane. It's going to be Jericho into the pit box ahead of Verve. Of course, we expected a little bit as they're on the medium tyre. Sir Maxon did not go for it, maybe going for an overcut situation. That's the hards. That is the undercut. Verve is going to still continue to go a little bit longer. They know that their strategy is different and they can call that. But that's an interesting one. It's Terence who's going to try and get a bit of an undercut after their difficult strategy choice, but I don't think they're going to really be able to make enough. They're going to have warmer tyres than Jericho, with the track kind of drying up already, it seems like we're not going to see any concern for any wet conditions. I say drying up, there's still some drops, but it's not really getting that bad. And for now, we're just going to have to ignore it and think that it's going to be the same for the rest of the race. Well, I say ignore it. Leave it on hold for a few moments and then check in on it later on. Terence 5 seconds back, as that soft tyre really didn't give them much of a chance. Now Jericho, who was P3, had a clear view of what was going on. He saw Sir Maxon stayed out. He saw Verf stayed out. Sir Maxon now leads the Grand Prix and might try and go a little bit longer, or might try and just go to the pit lane anyway. I'm not entirely sure, because they're now leading. They might try and just secure it on a normal strategy. But Verf, if they're to try and work together here with Sir Maxon, that's only going to give the Sauber another advantage. And ultimately, it would only help for track position or race glory, because right now, Jericho Willis, win this race or not, they will be the champion. And it would be an amazing achievement, and a very well-deserved one as well. A very well-deserved one. An enjoyable one to watch, with some defensive masterclasses. But now we're going to see an offensive attempt, quite possibly here from Verf, who's got the DRS on their old rival, who's going to have the go and is going to get a massive slingshot. And this is going to be massive for their race. It gives them a really nice advantage to just, glide through the air and gain some extra race time effectively on Jericho Willis, despite Jericho going for that undercut. And I think we see about the pit lane is about 18 seconds long, more or less, 17, 18 seconds. So that's going to be definitely very interesting. Jericho's got a little bit more work to do to try and catch up more and more and more. And now Jericho's got his tyres up to temperature ahead of Terence, who's actually just got a 3 second for corner cutting. Not exceeding track limits, but corner cutting. So they've cut the corner turn 6, I believe, probably the second part of the Lacombe chicane before Malmedy, and got themselves that penalty. They're good to go to the end of the Grand Prix and they haven't spun out, but it's just not ideal, and it's what plagued them in Mexico, really, that extra time penalty. They were in a very good position throughout the entire race, but it just didn't quite work out. That's 18.7 seconds between Jericho Willis and Verf, the race leader. Who's going to go into the pit lane? Are they going to go into the pit lane? The fastest laps are on your screen. They continue to stay out on track. Jericho Willis yet to go faster than Terence's peak time, but Jericho's still going to get quicker and quicker and quicker as their tyres do warm up more. Sir Maxon up the hill, DRS available, still in this condition. And I was going to assume they would make the move. They gain a lot in the late stage of the straight, but they don't gain enough. They weren't willing to gain that much more, and they stay behind. Verf kept their battery on as they travelled down the straight and turned it off through the corners to make sure that they could save a little bit more. And now Jericho does start really taking chunks out of the lead that Verf and Sir Maxon currently have. The tyres are warmer, the groove is on, the consistency can start to really kick in, and Jericho Willis has just got to focus and not make any mistakes. Both of the rivals in this championship have had misfortune. They've had fortune. It's been an up and down one. And we come to the final two races of the season, including this one here in Spa. And it's not as close as we thought it would be. But it's been just as awesome as we would have hoped. Jericho Willis on lap 11 out of 22 is about to reach the halfway mark of the Belgian Grand Prix. The halfway mark to complete one more race that will crown them champion. Of course, the season is not over until it's over, and the results are not final until they're final. that this is still a brilliant achievement. That is a hell of a lock-up on the rear there for Jericho, who's pushing it with everything they can. Verf and Samaxon continue out on front. They stay out of the pit lane. You can see Terrence in the background. You can see Samaxon, who is now definitely going to be making an overtake here on Verf, is going to gain some race time over Jericho Willis even further. And I should say that damage limitation kind of offsetting themselves from Jericho, who is gaining time, who will jump these two, at least one of them, if not both of them. Of course, they're not going to have the advantage over Verf immediately on the tyres, but these guys are still going a little bit longer yet. There's Drez having an issue. P5 at the moment. I think they keep their front wing nice and clean and they continue to get some more experience in the car. It's tough, but sometimes you've got to do it. You've got to get those laps and you've got to get that experience. And if you can learn as you go, it's all worth it. It is very much all worth it. Oh, a big lock up there in these conditions. It is super tough. It is super tough. But it's a new one, and it's something to learn about. It can be very enjoyable if you get it right. It can be an absolute nightmare if you've not got the setup to suit the circuit. But they do their best. It's Verf who once again sits behind Samaxon and continues with this hard tyre. Another second gain from Jericho Willis, who now, on the fresher tyres in these greasy conditions, is probably gaining a little bit more than I expected. And with Jericho Willis, who's not going to be fighting anyone, as we saw yesterday, there was a lot of battling. It could be really quite a nice advantage that Jericho will have. As long as they don't get a time penalty, they could be in a very strong position to make this Grand Prix victory happen. There's been a pattern of victories and P2s for the likes of Verf. It's gone victory for one driver and a P2 for the other, and then the next race it switches, and it keeps switching. And we've seen that from the Hungarian Grand Prix all the way to I believe it was the Hungarian Grand Prix, all the way to the last race in Mexico. The Hungarian Grand Prix was round 8 of the championship, I do believe. So a hell of a amount of races to have a pattern going. It does mean that if the pattern continued, Verf should take victory here in Belgium, since Jericho Willis took victory last time out in Mexico. Jericho Willis is going to try and take that away. They've gained another second and a massive amount of time. Of course, the tyres, the circuit is a lot longer, so you can gain more time compared to where you would at probably other circuits, but still a huge advantage that they're having right now. And Jericho is doing everything that they need to. Into the pit lane, as expected here, for Verf and Samaxon. Well, more Verf, really, not so much Samaxon. I would have expected that to happen a little bit earlier, but they were in the lead, and they thought they might as well make a use of it. Jericho Willis is going to regain the lead of the Grand Prix. It's just how long can Jericho hold on for? Can they prevent Verf from coming back at all? I don't know. It's Samaxon onto the soft tyre, interestingly. I'm not entirely sure if that's a legitimate attempt or not, but they've tried to go as long as they could on the medium, and now they're going soft, so they're really mixing it up, and they're going to go incredibly quickly. Verf sits in DRS of Samaxon and will be helped nicely to gain back some time from the pit stop. You do usually lose a little bit as you enter and leave the pit lane to the car in front of you, but really worked out nicely there for Verf. They were able to hold on to DRS and catch back up immediately. 2.7 seconds. Jericho Willis has got some nice warm tyres. These guys have got to warm their tyres up a little bit first. And of course the track is a little bit greasy as well, so it is going to take some time for these tyres to warm up, but they will be absolutely rapid in not too long at all. You can see Jericho Willis just up in front. And of course, with Sir Maxon bringing Verf along with them in the DRS train, all of a sudden that medium tyre gets even more of a pace advantage over that hard. The hard's going to be good to go to the end of the Grand Prix. It was a slightly early pit stop there from Jericho Willis, but not massively. It's a late pit stop there for Sir Maxon and a standard pit stop for Verf. They're going to be pushing all the way to the end with no worries about tyre wear themselves. It's just whether they'll be equal with the hard tyre or not. It's whether Jericho Willis will be able to hold on to the cars behind them. And to be honest, Jericho, they have to defend. They have to hold on. They have to really fight for this one. Otherwise, it could be over very easily. Verf, we saw in the beginning of this Grand Prix, hold on despite being on the hard tyre. But now, the roles have switched. It's not the start of the Grand Prix anymore. The cars aren't heavy. They're not bunched up together. They're a bit more spread out. And there's a lot more to think about. There's a lot more to push with. Sir Maxon does not get DRS on Jericho Willis. Verf will catch up to Sir Maxon, and Jericho can breathe for about a lap. And then it will all change. Lap 15 of 22, Jericho Willis fights for victory. As the pattern goes, Verf should take victory here in Belgium. As the advantage shows, Verf should take victory here in Belgium. Regardless of what happens between these two drivers, as long as Jericho Willis finishes this race, they will become the champion. And Sir Maxon sits behind the McLaren driver and just waiting. Oh, is that contact there with Sir Maxon, who's on the very quick soft tyre? The hard tyre's not so fast, but still in front and in the way. They have to make sure that they brake accordingly to the car in front of them and not make contact. And then all of a sudden, Verf was in a bit of a difficult situation, looking like they were going to go into the back of Sir Maxon. But they do stay away. They're good to go. DRS available despite the rain dripping down very, very lightly, and it might be a double overtake here. Sir Maxon is going to push for it. It's going to be Verf as well, pushing with everything they can. They move to the right-hand side. It's going to be side-by-side into the Lacombe chicane. It will not be contested. The medium tyres have the grip. The momentum there was for the Sauber, and the orange car just has to let it happen, and there's nothing they can do. They might be able to hold on to DRS range, but now you've got the middle sector where all the corners really give the tyres the advantage, the ability to exert their performance, to boast what they can do, and now Verf can break away. Sir Maxon gets a 3-second time penalty, with Verf being on a medium tyre that's not going to get old at all and is going to keep its pace. Oh, it's going to keep its pace. It'll be good to go. It's Jericho Willis who loses the car at Pouhon, stays out of the wall, and will keep the championship alive for themselves. That was a big one that I didn't see. All of a sudden, the yellow flag, and Pouhon saw a car that was stationary on the track for a moment. Terence catches up and is now ready to try and push. They have 1 lap difference in their tyre life compared to the McLaren. 1.2 seconds in it. They do have a time penalty, but now they've got nice cool tyres, whereas Jericho Willis has got to try and recoup and cool their tyres down themselves. So we'll see. That being said, because of the wet conditions, the damp conditions, even though you've had a spin, it may be that the tyres cool down quite nicely. What I wanted to say is, with Sir Maxon getting that 3 seconds, regardless of a time penalty, Verf has the medium tyre on, and they're going to be very, very quick. They're going to be good to go to the end of the Grand Prix. They're not going to need to worry about a soft tyre wearing up in the final moments. And Verf might be able to get this victory on track. And I say might be able to, is very likely to get this victory here on track in Belgium, to give it everything they can, to make a statement, to say, you know what, I've got it in me. It just didn't quite go my way this season so far. Jericho Willis almost losing it all at turn 10, but still strong wherever they finish. As long as they do, the title is theirs. Lap 18, Terence squirming on the on the exit of the final corner to try and catch up a little bit more. Not quite finding the traction, but giving it everything they can. Verf leads the way on that medium tyre. That is Drez allowing the lap cars to go through as they go for a soft tyre here towards the final stages of the Grand Prix. A few laps to go yet. Continuing to get that experience. Great to see them out on track. They had some good battling earlier on to make their debut in LSI. It's been slightly more lonely since, but currently on cue to get 12 points and a P4 for the EU drivers as long as they finish this Grand Prix. Verf is currently on cue to try and take victory here to give themselves their best chance at keeping their championship hopes alive. But with Jericho Willis on lap 18, currently has a brilliant chance at making this to the end. And even if they DNF in the final laps of the race, they'd still be classed as finished. And with the attendance that we've got, they would still then score points. And if that's the case, then they are the champion. As I said, 3 points to match it. 4 points to secure the victory. That's all they need. And 12 points is the least that they can get if they finish in P5. Terence pushing with all they can to try and make it work. You can see they're on the limit of the battery. 1.2 seconds again as they brought it down from 1.5 on the exit of the bus stop chicane last lap. They go for the bus stop. It's now 1.2. Can they try and get that 3/10 down again one more time to get themselves within DRS range and attacking range of Jericho Willis? Getting so close to the inside curb there on the entry of La Source, turn 1, and they do gain a bit more performance. They do gain some time. Do they have the straight line speed to really make some progress though? That's the question. That's 1.2 seconds as Terence doesn't gain and Jericho escapes, and they'll continue to escape. That McLaren is fast in a straight line compared to the Haas. A brilliant, brilliant gain there from Jericho, and that might be enough to prevent Terence from gaining any more to catch back up. It may have not been the strategy call anyway. There was a spin. It didn't allow us to see what could have been anyway. Lap 19 out of 22, about to start lap 20 out of 22. With the Hungarian leading for Sauber once again. But this time they've got a bit of pressure from Samaxon. They're hoping that the Racing Bulls tyres wear off in the final moments and it just completely drops out. Samaxon's going to try and take another victory here in F1.5 if they can. I'm sure they will give it a good shot. There's such a gap to the cars behind that they've not got massive amount to risk, so they can go for the attempts. They've got, of course, 3 seconds to try and gain, but with that soft tyre getting older and older, it's becoming more unlikely as we speak. Terence 1.1 seconds on the limit of 1.2 is making phenomenal progress to try and catch back up. Right on the limit, dancing with the DRS and the opportunity. You can see they're trying to force the Haas out of the slipstream as they enter the first corner. Is the McLaren, but Terence still not able to get it, and you can see how hard they're pushing on the exits of the corners. They're going to lose a massive amount of time because of that mistake, because now you've got to go all the way basically to the opposite side of the circuit. And with a mistake at the beginning of the straight, you just lose all that momentum. So not only does Jericho Willis seem to have the advantage down the Kemmel Straight, Terence has lost even more time because of that mistake. Those are the mistakes that you really can't afford to make. That's the pressure that you can really put on the car ahead if you don't make those mistakes, and then allow them to kind of come to you instead of you going to them, as they would then make some mistakes themselves. 1.8 seconds. Terence is going to find it all again. So Maxon has lost the DRS range here to Verth. It could be all over. It could be the opportunity that Verth was looking for. So Maxon's tyres are really looking pretty done, slipping all over the place. The ERS is being used, but there the Sauber checks out and is going to try and run away with it now to make that statement that they were trying to make, to bring what they were trying to bring in Mexico. It's Sir Maxon who goes into the pit lane with the intention of still staying ahead of Jericho, if not staying ahead, retaking the position immediately, as they'll go to try and secure the fastest lap to make sure nobody else gets it. It's actually the intermediate tyres that Sir Maxon's going to put on that car. And would you believe it, Terence has also gone into the pit lane to try and get the fastest lap on the EU drivers. They've decided to back off of putting pressure on Jericho Willis and instead look to try and make it work with the fastest laps. I don't know if that was an intention there for Sir Maxon to go for the intermediate tyre, because you can see it is completely dry. I say that, it immediately starts to appear rainy on the screen. So maybe it was intentional. Maybe it was the fact that they actually selected Inters just in case and they forgot to change it back. But it's Terence who's on that fresh soft tyre anyway, who is likely to go for the fastest lap attempt. I say attempt, they're definitely going for the attempt. They're likely to get that fastest lap back. We're on the penultimate lap of the Grand Prix, and Sir Maxon is trying to line up a move here on Jericho Willis, but that intermediate tyre doesn't seem to be quite so quick compared to what I thought it would be. It's Sir Maxon who's going to have to try and make the move here on Jericho Willis if they do want to get that fastest lap, but actually I think what they're looking for is to try and get a bit of a gap, catch up, make the move down the Kemmel Straight, get ahead with DRS and gain some extra lap time as well to try and defend it. Of course, they're a higher tier driver, so if they get the fastest lap and Terence gets the second fastest lap, they would still get both fastest lap points for each of them. It's a mistake there for Dres, unfortunately, as they're going to have to allow Terence to go through, who's on that tyre. And there is Sir Maxon, who sits behind as they start the final lap of the Grand Prix. DRS will be available here for the Racing Bull. They'll go into turn one, and they'll be able to gain some good time there with the gap on the traction. They'll lose a little bit of time there to Jericho, who will get a lovely run. Using the energy, not really able to do so because you've got the McLaren just in front of you. They'll use the energy up the hill and they'll all have a big moment. They'll still get the DRS and power through, getting that benefit of the DRS anyway to try and go for the fastest lap. There is Sir Maxon, but it's Jericho Willis who will still take that P2 regardless. It's Verth who leads on the final lap of the Grand Prix. To get redemption from Mexico, they've got one sector to go through and they can take victory. And the pattern, the curse, continues, trading victories between the two rivals all the way to the end. Well, trading victories they may be, but there's only one that will win the championship. And as it stands, Jericho Willis has done enough. They lose time to Samaxon. They're not worried about Samaxon. They're worried about getting the car to the end. Verf is going to come through Blanchimont to drive a phenomenal race. They performed absolutely epically on the hard tyre in the opening stages to give them the advantage. Later on, it paid off. Verf takes victory in Belgium and they win in round 13. It's Samaxon who looks for the fastest lap, as it's another time penalty there for Dres at the final stages. Samaxon's given a good effort. They unfortunately didn't get the job done to take victory, but across the line, they'll try and go purple, and they will not go purple. Jericho Willis to P2, and they are the champion in Season 12. Welcome to history, Jericho Willis. Another driver from the US to take a title in LSI. But I do believe the first driver to take the title in LSI F1.5 EU and be a US driver. It's only ever been done in a series or in the NA Championship. So Jericho Willis, you have very much made history, my friend. Congratulations. And a massive good effort there between both Terence and Verf to give it a championship fight as well. Verf is the one on top today in this battle, but the war has been won, and it's Jericho Willis who will take that name. Verf wins in Belgium, Jericho Willis in P2, it's Sam Maxon in P3. Terence, Dres, and DNFing earlier on was Ginger Hornet. We sport the session results, and the race director will be on your screen now just in case. And we'll be looking at the pit stops. We'll be back in a bit for the post-race interviews, followed by the qualifying watch-along for the Miami Grand Prix. We'll see you in a bit. Hello everyone, welcome to the post-race interviews of the Belgian Grand Prix. That was a hell of a race to finish it off. Congratulations to Verf for the victory there. But Jericho Willis, it goes to you today. Congratulations, you are the champion. A crazy race. It was looking very, very close at the beginning. But unfortunately the hards later on weren't quite so simple. It looked pretty treacherous out there in the greasy conditions.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a good race overall. The start was fine, and the first stint was good. The pace was really strong. Unfortunately, in the pit stop cycle, I wasn't able to build enough of a gap. Samaxon and Verth were quite quick, even on the older tires, so I couldn't build up much of a gap. And then the conditions were tricky to maximize my pace. So it was just pushing a little too hard. And I don't know if you guys caught on the live stream the spin, but I saw some actions 3-second penalty pop up, and it caught my attention for a moment. And the next thing I knew, the car was spinning. So, the championship could have been delayed at least another week right there, because if I made it to the wall, it would have been over. But the gravel trap slowed me down, got back on track, and finished the race to finish it off. So. Yeah, big congratulations to Verth. He raced a great race today. Strategy was perfect, pace was good, and just really, really top notch. Good racing all race long, and thanks to Terrence for sticking with the championship and providing some good fights throughout the season, having some fun, keeping me very honest today to not drop back into a fight with him at the end. So, and he had really good pace pushing along there as well. And, it was getting very close to us to have a battle at the end. So, thanks to him for all his hard work this season, and just pushing really hard. So it was a lot of fun to race against all those guys. Some Axon as well. It's not his tier, but it's always fun to have him there and get him to try to help you push your limits to try to reach that next step of pace and the racecraft. So always fun. And also the other guys who showed up throughout the year, maybe not as consistently as we would have liked, but Bread and Peanuts and Barry and all those guys. So a lot of fun to race those guys, and hopefully we see them again sometime.
Yeah, thank you for the words there. Appreciate that. Really well done today. Yeah, and the grid's building, so it's looking good for the future. Thank you very much, Jericho. Really well done today. Congratulations. Well done to keep out of the wall. I'm sure there was a bit of pressure there, just thinking of that one thing that you shouldn't do, and that's crash. And you managed to succeed. Abu Dhabi, whether you're there or not, the final race of the season. Nothing to really lose. Just gonna go for one more victory.
Yeah, I like that track. Have never done, I can't even remember if I've done any kind of a competitive race or not. I mean, maybe, just some random online race with random people, maybe, but I don't even recall. So, don't know what my pace is there. I haven't done a league race there. Do like the track. Don't have a setup, so we'll see.
Fair enough.
We'll see.
We will see. Now, Jericho, thank you very much for your efforts today. It's paid off throughout the season. I know it's been hard in a few moments, but it's been brilliant in others. You deserve it massively. Thank you for the incredible racing as well, and hopefully one more race at the end will make it a good one. Thank you, Jericho.
Thank you.
And we move on to Terrence. Terrence, it was close at the beginning. The soft tyres, though, did they not really work as you thought they would?
Yes, actually, I'm trying to put a soft hard stint. Actually, because in our rain, there's no rain. It's only cloudy. So actually, I don't know the conditions on the track. And it comes out a little bit of raindrops on the track in the whole race. So, but actually, I think I managed quite well, without the disruption of from a mosquito. So yeah, it's a shame that I can't keep up the DRS with them. And I think yeah, it's still a race on Abu Dhabi, and definitely I will show up. And but I want to sum up a little bit for my season. Actually, I do think I'm quite consistent compared with the last season because yeah, the last two seasons I think not this season. From the last season in F1.23 and the first season in F1.24, I'm quite usually DNF and having contact with many peoples or just crash out from my own. Um, but in this season, I think I do improve in the consistency and I seldom make any mistakes. But I'm slower. I'm slower than F1.23. I'm less competitive in compared with F1.23. So it's coming. The F1.25. Currently, the comment is it's like a worse game than F1.24. So yeah, let's see. I mean, every time um the game change, obviously the competitive would change. So I hope I would be stronger in the next game.
Yep, for sure. I hope that the same as well. Really good effort today, though. You put some good pressure on Jericho in the final moments before going into the pit lane for the fastest lap, which you did achieve. So well done on the extra point there. But yeah,
I do.
you did because Sametson's a higher tier driver, so you do get the point. Oh wait, no. Oh wait, no.
Verf is faster.
Verf is faster. Damn it! I didn't
Yeah.
realise. I thought
Actually,
I thought you had 46. I see.
actually, the last lap is 2.4 seconds slower than my personal best. I think is the track condition is wetter than uh the beginning
Right.
of the
Okay.
race.
I see.
Yeah,
I
so
see.
that's why.
Yeah, that would explain it. Well, Abu Dhabi, one more opportunity in the F1.24 game to make it work. Do you think you can get victory number 2 this season?
Uh, no, I don't think so. If Firth and Draco will be shown in the next race, but actually I'm looking forward to make something there. Maybe if there's again with few people, just few people, maybe 6 or 5 people there. Maybe I can be a Latifi for them.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully you can do good there. And thank you very much, Terence. Really good effort today. The consistency has been good this season. We've got one more hurrah. We'll see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's been it for the post-race interviews. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a pleasure. We will see you in a few moments for the Miami Grand Prix qualifying session watch along. We will see you next weekend for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the finale for both the the F1 LSI F1 World Championship and the F1.5 EU Championship as well. We'll see you then. Thank you very much. Bye bye.